Hi guys, Chris here. I'm back here with the MSI GL62M. This is the 7REX model, so it's straight out of China, Chinese version, but it does have an English US layout keyboard, which is great. The BIOS is in Chinese, and the operating system it did come with was in Chinese, but I've corrected that. I've installed Windows 10 here in English. So in this particular video, we're going to have a look at some benchmarks. We'll just 3D mark here, do a little bit of overclocking, gaming performance, thermals, and fan noise. Now, if you're not aware of the specs of this model, it came with 8 gigabytes of RAM, but I have upgraded that now to 16 gigabytes. It has an i7 7700HQ, that's quad core, 8 threads, and the GPU is a dedicated one. It's the NVIDIA 1050 Ti with 4 gigabytes of double data rate 5 RAM. So we're going to check out the performance, if we can play some of the latest titles, and will it run into thermal throttling, and most importantly, what kind of frame rates are we going to get? So before I switch over to my capture card for the games test, I just want to show you here, this is the Firestrike 1.1 benchmark score. So this is completely stock. Well, of course, I've just changed the RAM, so it's running in dual channel. That's going to boost the CPU performance here. So 6,728. Now I did do a little bit of an overclock on this 1050 Ti. And what I've done here with MSI's Afterburner is just add 1 gigabyte to the memory clock. They've actually underclocked that quite a lot, and I haven't run into any problems. Now, 1 gigahertz here probably seems like a lot. You're thinking, wow, you're going to have issues with that, but zero artifacting, really no problems. And I put 100 more onto the clock. So thermals permitting, it will clock up a little bit higher there. So it's given us a little bit of a boost here. Ran the test again, you can see here. So this is now the score with the overclock. It's now up to 7,409. So that's approximately 10% increase, which isn't too bad. Sometimes you see around 14 or even 15, but I'm happy with this result here overclocking. So I'm going to start out with Battlefield 1. Now I'm using some custom settings here for our graphics. So keep an eye on the frames per second. You can see at the moment it's at 60. Now the temperature of the CPU is hitting 88, 80, 91 degrees. It's really starting to get a little bit too hot. Now I don't have the Cooler Booster 4 on at the moment, but I think I'm going to need it. You can see right then it just dipped right down. Not good to see. And the reason for this is I've discovered that it is actually running into thermal throttling. So every time it thermal throttles, we get those spikes there, the lag, and the frame rate just dips right down, takes a huge dive, which it looks like it's happening again. So either I need to repaste the copper heatsink, or the cooling here does not actually work. Wow, too slow then. I didn't even have time to pull the trigger on that guy. So I'm going to put a little undervolt here on the CPU, not too high. I'll try 70. And then turn on the Cooler Booster, which you're going to hear now. Very loud, those fans. And let's see now if it will hold 60 frames per second. Oh, someone has resurrected me. Revived me there. No. Still dipping down there. Now I am running this off the power supply, so it's not like it's running on the battery or anything like that.
Capture objective butter.
I don't think he was expecting that, was he? Me to creep up on him. Okay, so now the CPU is at 80 degrees. We're not getting those spikes anymore. So it looks like just the thermal throttling that was the issue. Dead. So I'm running now Grand Theft Auto 5 with my own custom settings here. So keeping it at 1080p. I want to be able to game in 1080p on this. I'm pretty sure the 1050 Ti can handle that. And you see VSync is off. And I have toned down some of these settings here. So texture quality high, and these are all the rest of the settings. Now you can probably hear the fans screaming in the background. That's because I have the Cooler Booster 4 mode on. And keep an eye on the frames per second here. Hopefully we're not going to run into any thermal throttling. Cruising around in this little smart car. I do have the police on my tail. Well, no, I've lost them, I think. So, frame rate's looking alright, hovering around 80 frames per second, although it just dipped down to 30 frames per second. Why on earth did that happen? Let's have a look. Did it thermal throttle? No. I'm not too sure why that happened. So we're still getting and seeing these frame dips. I have updated the drivers. This is running the latest NVIDIA drivers, which is 385.41, I think it is, or 45. So yeah, the performance is good, but again, not ideal seeing those dips just here and there. Get randomly occur, don't they? Let's move on now to another game. We'll check out Witcher 3. 3 on medium settings, 1080p. Go. And you can see that the frame rate is quite decent here. We're hovering around 50, 52, 3 frames per second. Now I do have this overclocked a little. As you can see, I've applied that overclock to the GPU again. So this title, I believe, is going to be very playable. Even when you've got a lot going on the screen, it shouldn't go below 30 frames per second with the medium preset. So here we go. I have set the stock clocks now on the GPU, so it's not overclocked. For some reason, it's not picking up any audio, my capture card, from this game. Don't know what's going on with that. So the reason I haven't overclocked it is to see if we're going to run into any of those frame rate dips down to 30 frames per second. I think it could actually be related to that. So very playable so far, around 90 frames per second. Oh, cutting out the corners on the track. So yeah, this game is looking perfect to me, and so far it hasn't done that dip, which probably would have happened by about now. And I don't have the cooler booster on either. Completely lost it, and someone just hit me. So I'll move on now to the next game. Now the last title I'm going to check out is Counter-Strike Global Offensive. So I'm going to keep with the settings that the game recommends, and it's basically on the highest settings here, as you can see there. And it will be, of course, in 1080p. So let's see how it performs. So this one's a headshot only service. I'm not particularly good at this game, but you can see that frame rate is perfectly fine. Almost 200 frames per second. Wow, that didn't take me long to die at all, did it? Oh, got a headshot. Wow, that's a fluke for me. Oh, bad time to reload, and dead. So yeah, a lightweight engine game like this one, as you can see, super playable. Absolutely no problems running on the highest settings here. Oh, I should have got that kill, shouldn't I? My aim is absolutely shocking. I really just don't play games anymore, so that's my excuse anyway. At least I managed to get one kill there. Hopefully kill this guy. And I think he got away. Whoops. Again, bad time to reload. Anyway, Counter-Strike Global Offensive. Very, very good results here. And no problems there with the temperatures, at least at this point. So after all of that gaming now, I've been running this now for 5 hours and 37 minutes. And you can see here that it did reach on the CPU 95 degrees on the package, that is. And on the cores here, up to 93. So really, that is not acceptable. I feel that those thermals should be at least under 90. Now, we did run into some thermal throttling. Not recently, but it did happen on the most demanding games like GTA 5, and Battlefield 1 was the worst. So as soon as it started to thermal throttle, the performance was horrible. It literally halved the frame rate from about 50 to 60 frames per second right down there to 30, causing a lot of stutter, a lot of lag, and making it very hard to aim and actually get any headshots or kills or anything like that. So let's take a look now at the outer temperatures, so the surface temperatures now of the notebook and the power supply. So I've just unplugged the power supply, and you'll see here it's currently at 45 degrees. The hottest I've seen the power supply get is 49 degrees, so very toasty to the touch when you're doing those demanding tasks. Now if we have a look now at the laptop, just around the palm rest is 37, 38 degrees, which isn't too bad. That's fine. But I have noticed that the touchpad, right in the middle here, 41 degrees, so getting quite warm there. I do believe it's because right here is the SSD that I installed. So I've got a Samsung 960 EVO in there, and it's the heat that's coming off that, I feel. Along the top, just above the keyboard, temperatures are fine there. Well, up to 41, a little bit warm there. So it does get warm, but the keyboard itself isn't too bad. They're 40 degrees. So overall, surface temperatures aren't too bad. But if you do intend to game on this MSI GL62M, I do highly recommend running the cooler booster for the most demanding games, so you don't run into those frame dips we saw there. Thanks a lot for watching this gaming review, thermals, and just the, well, 3D mark score there. Bye for now.